recording is an online roundtable discussion with guest speakers and an introduction by Executive Director of the Blue Water Wood Alliance, Mike Baker. For timestamps on when each speaker begins, please refer to the description below in the video. For more information on the Blue Water Wood Alliance's programs, events, news, and information related to COVID-19, please visit www.bluewaterwoodalliance.com.
Just to kind of introduce the topic today, we're going to have two things that we're going to talk about today. When we did our polls at the last meeting, the last couple of meetings, one of the things that has bubbled to the top is sales and how and getting ready for recovery. Up until now, we've really dealt with the shock of COVID and what it's doing to our businesses and our families and our communities, and also really as far as all of you joining us here today, it was more about keeping on top of the change that was happening daily in terms of relief programs from the government, in terms of restrictions that were in place by the government, and then due diligence and with health and safety, and then the whole thing around essential business. It's just been a real whirlwind of change and trying to keep up with it. And that's been the focus of these events, and that's why we've kept them open to both non-members and members. So we'd like to welcome all of you that are not members of BWA, folks from AMAC, folks from CKCA, and other industry members. We're all, I'm not going to do the cliche, we're all in this together, but we are. And we really want to make sure that, we can touch everybody that we can. And if we're able to be at a bit of ahead of the curve in engaging industry remotely, then we want to share that and open that to everybody. So one of the themes that's come out of that has been recovery and keeping up with sales. One of the things that we've discovered and learned as we've gone with these meetings is that many companies are still running to some capacity, albeit maybe a lower capacity. But a lot of our companies, our manufacturing members, are still running. In fact, I would say a majority of them are. I know the furniture folks slowed down almost, and some shut down for a period of time because their retail stores in different parts of the US and Canada had to close. So they didn't really have that pull happening with their products. But a lot of them are geared back up now, and they're starting to continue to work. So I think the theme that we need to really think about is recovery and moving forward. And the sales pipeline is a big deal. So I'm just going to share my screen and get to the agenda for today. And of the meeting today, okay, Hugh, I'm muted. Okay, hang on a second here.
We got you. We can hear you. Yep.
Okay. All right. Good. So we're going to talk about who's in the room a little bit. I'm going to welcome everybody, which I just already did. So talking about recovery, export readiness. Many of you are exporting already into the U.S., and there's 20% of our member companies that could be exporting. And what we've got going on right now is a program that's supporting the BWA do export readiness events. And we're going to be working on an analysis of entry points into the US market for the different segments. So for the cabinetry, for the millwork, for the furniture, and then for those of you that are already exporting, how do you expand your export markets? So we really need to be thinking about, and this ties into our sales theme for today, what are the systems and the processes you're putting in place to continue the momentum that you have and create new momentum and adapt to the new situation? And where do exports stand, and what do you need to do to close the gaps and increase your exports or develop new exports? So I want you to keep that going in the back of your mind, because we are going to be having export themes coming up. Last event, one of the requests we had from members was an essential business template. So I'm going to just change, I'm going to show you that template in just a moment here. So this is a template, if everybody can see that. We have this available for everybody who's a member of the Blue Water Wood Alliance. It's got our logo there. You can put your business on there, the name of the business. You can describe your operation. So it's an editable PDF. Okay.
Like we can't see it just at the moment.
Oh, you can't? Okay. That means I got to stop share and then go back again. Sorry. I did that last time. Can you see now?
Not yet.
Sorry. It makes me go in and out. There we go. So this is the document, so I think you can see it all now. Thumbs up if you can. Okay, thank you. So this is basically a template. There's two documents. This is just the one to post in your, or this is the one to give to your employees that they can take to the workplace if they're working on a job site. And you put the name of the employee, the name of the business. It's endorsed by the Blue Water Wood Alliance, verifying that you are an essential business falling under the Emergency Management Civil Protection Act. So there's two copies, one to put into your building and one to give to your employees. So for those of you that want to get that, you can request it from us, or you can get it, download it from our website. So I'm just going to stop. So it makes me stop share and then go back to share again to go back to my agenda. Sorry about that. Okay. We have a chat platform, which is a social media tool that we've adopted for all of our members. Ryan's going to show you that for like 30 seconds or a minute to explain what it is, so that we can make sure that we get all of our members on the banned BWA Central chat platform. It's replaced WhatsApp. So you are all going to receive an invitation to join this. So please click on the links to go to it. But Ryan will give you a quick show, and I'll stop sharing my screen so you can do that, Ryan. Yes.
Okay, so real quick here, it's just a place that's a very neat and tidy environment that's non-distractive, that we can have all of our members communicating back and forth. As you can see here, it's a place that you can be putting posts. So talking about a specific article or a piece of content, they'll either link back to the page and where the source file was, or the source article was written. So a lot of the stuff you can find, it'll take you back to the BWA's homepage. Conversations can be had about that content here. We also kept what was functional and what people liked about an app like WhatsApp, and we have that as available to have those kinds of long, stream form of chat. The thing that it didn't serve, though, with WhatsApp, we found very restrictive, and that's why we've gone to this platform, is that it's hard to have a conversation that you can have multiple topics and be discussing things. So we've taken a lot of the conversations that we were having on WhatsApp, brought it over here so we didn't lose that. But this is much more practical and functional, that you can be having a discussion or focusing on something that you're interested in, as well as being able to find content really quickly and then download resources that we've put up here that you can just share or download as a Word document, Excel, or PDF. And then being able to find things that you're looking for is really helpful. So if you want to find a past piece of content, say anything related to COVID-19 essential businesses, you can see how many articles are written on it. And once you click on that, you can see all the articles that were related to that. So very fast way to look specifically for what you need and have a conversation and share it across all the membership to have those discussions. So there's more to it than that, and I've created tutorials that people can be checking out here to learn how to navigate through it, which is pretty straightforward. And we've even have other videos that we keep privately on YouTube but make available to show here, as well as resources on our BWA homepage. When you log in as a member, you'll see all that kind of stuff as well.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, I can't stress enough, for all of you that are members, please click the link, register on the app, because that is real-time chat. If you have a question about a supplier, about dust collection, about if you're having a problem with an inspection you had, or anything like that, a real-time conversation. I think there's over 60 people on it now. We need to get that number up. So there was some interest from members to learn a little bit more about how our risk management fits in. So we have two of our associate members, Alex Bilik from Cowan Insurance and Connie Rowley from Woodshire. They're both going to take 5 minutes and go over a couple of separate points to inform our members, and there'll be an opportunity for Q&A. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Alex, if you want to go ahead first, if you want to share your screen, if you got your presentation there ready to go?
I'm just going to be doing it verbally since it's such a short presentation. So I'm just going to talk and then encourage if anyone has either, like you mentioned, a chat question or want to interrupt or anything like that. So I'm going to be very quick and not take up too much time. And again, thank you for the opportunity to discuss an impact that the membership may be having. So the first thing I want to talk about is Obviously, most people have had at least a partial shutdown, or maybe in some cases shutting down a location or pulling out. So the first thing is regarding your vehicle insurance. If you catch the news, you know, they're not really telling you much. They're saying, oh, the insurance companies, they got to do something, but there's nothing really coming out on how to do that. So if you have a number of vehicles, like even myself, I have 2 vehicles. Both my wife and I are working from home. So we just canceled the insurance on one vehicle and kept fire and theft on it. And because I'm going to the grocery store and very limited use. So that, you know, in a short period of time, saved me $250. But if you have 3, 4, 5 vehicles, and you're only using 1 or 2 instead of the 5, you can reduce your coverage to just fire theft and vandalism type of thing. If you have a large fleet, unfortunately, this is not available, but however, you should contact your service provider because you're typically under what's called a 21B. So this allows you the flexibility of adding and deleting vehicles without having to call your insurance company all the time. This is typically for at least 5, some companies it's 5, some it's 10. And unfortunately, when you have this feature and you park a car, you're not going to get much of a credit. But there are some companies that are open to some petitioning on that regard. So that's kind of the vehicle side. I started with the easy one. A more difficult situation deals with, you may have a location that you may have shut down. You need to be aware that if you have not operated for 30 days, so vacant also includes the concept of unoccupied. So you could have all your machinery there, you could have your wood piles, your raw material, finished product. Okay, I'm not going to work that location, that warehouse until this madness is over. And that has insurance ramifications. You need to advise your insurer that you are not doing this and your terms will change. So if you have a vacant property and some hobos break in and burn the place down, and it's determined it was vacant or unoccupied, you have no coverage. So you need to do that. Another way to look at something is your revenues have probably stopped in full or in part. You can try to petition your insurer to say, look, I thought I was going to do $1 million in sales this year. It looks like I'm going to be at $750,000. Keep in mind there may be some minimum premiums that may apply, but you still should be able to get a credit. If not, you can even cancel your policy and have it reissued. You know, I'm no longer shipping to the US and I'm no longer doing this. And if they're not going to give you a credit, say, look, well, then reissue my policy. This is a material change in my operation. You need to respect that. You can also have a change in inventory or equipment. You may not have the stockpile of raw materials or finished stock. So again, you can amend that in the short term. That pretty much sums it up. I try to wreck through it in 5 minutes. I'll just check the chat here if there's any questions. Doesn't appear to be. So that's pretty much it, unless anyone has some questions.
Okay. Thank you, Alex. Yeah, if you've got any questions, please put them into the chat. These are things that some people may not even be thinking about during all of this, Alex. So we appreciate your information and continue to hang around because we're having the overtime at the end as well for networking. Now I'd like to invite Connie Rowley to share her screen and go over her short presentation on some other takeaways around risk management that can open some opportunities for further discussion going forward.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Alex, for drilling down on some of those coverages. I think it's important for members to know that information. And thanks for inviting me here today to talk a few minutes. I know I only have about 5 minutes, but what I wanted to do is talk more in general terms about where the insurance industry is and some of the things that we're experiencing at this moment. I know Alex touched on it in his introduction or in the first few minutes of the call. So let's take a look at pre-pandemic hard market versus a market cycle. Insurance cycles run about 3 to 5 years, and hard markets appear every 10 to 15 years that last 2 to 3 years. So when we start to approach a hard market, we see various indications, and Some of those things are rate increases for sure, reduced capacity by insurance companies, increased reinsurance costs, and capital withdrawal realignment. I've provided some stats here from the Insurance Bureau of Canada that you can have these slides later, but I wanted to just drop down to where it says catastrophic losses. And you can see here that in 2018, losses accounted for $2 billion in total payout for the Canadian market. We also, in 2016 had a lot of losses due to the Fort McMurray wildfires, lots of flooding in 2013 from in Alberta and in Toronto, and of course all the flooding that happened in 2019. Those numbers have not come out yet. So if you fast forward to now COVID-19 and some of the insurance challenges that we're faced with, you can see, the potential for increased claims. There's a lot of business uncertainty and sustainability for companies, increased vandalism exposure, which Alex has talked about, insurance fraud, desperate times, desperate acts, unfortunately, and increased cybercrime. So a lot of us are having staff work from home, which means that our firewalls are less than they would be if they're in an office setting. So throughout my presentation, I've put in there some takeaways for you as business owners or managers, highlighted in blue. So here, strengthening your remote access management policy. So, many business owners have been asking about their business interruption insurance and whether it would respond to a situation such as this pandemic. And I understand that a lot of you in the wood industry have, had, temporary shutdown or permanent shutdown, but a lot of you have remained open. But this is good information to know. So business interruption is usually triggered by an insured peril to the premise, which causes an interruption to your business operations. However, the government and the courts may rule or mandate insurance companies to pay out business claims under business interruption, even if even if there's exclusions in place. So if we look at what happened in 2003 after the SARS outbreak, many insurers introduced exclusions at that time around communicable diseases and epidemics and pandemics to exclude them from business interruption and travel insurance. So if you're unsure, contact your broker, ask for clarification on your policy wordings, and find out whether you have an exclusion for viruses or outbreaks. And if not, there may be some relief there through your business interruption. So you take all of this information, combine the hard market with this pandemic, and we have a very, very precarious market. So for business owners or managers on this call, if you have a renewal coming up, it would be in your best interest to be prepared, be proactive, request from your broker renewal documents well in advance. Ask, and have the conversation with your broker and ask if you'll be receiving renewal terms and what kind of increase you can expect so you can be prepared. If you're reopening after a shutdown, there's some issues around general liability and the obligation to prevent harm. I have provided some information there on standard of care. You can read that later. But essentially, what you need to do is continue to follow those government recommendations and those suggested by associations such as BWA, CKCA, ALMAC, CFIB, all of those industry leaders who are providing you with great information and resources. Stay apprised of adaptations and safeguards implemented by your competitors, both locally and nationally, and try implementing the same. Take steps to introduce new policies to ensure staff compliance. And if you're in doubt of how to move forward, then definitely seek counsel and be diligent, be safe. That's what I have.
Okay.
Any questions?
Yeah, there's any questions in the chat?
I don't see any yet.
Okay. All right. Well, we'd like to welcome folks. If you do have them, please put them. We'll come back to them later. So we're trying to keep on time. So let's continue on. So thank you, Connie and Alex, for your presentations. I'd like to pass it over to Andrew Wall from Sandler Training Milton. And I just want to introduce them just quickly. The Blue Water Wood Alliance, we polled our members a few years ago and asked them, what are the main things that are keeping you awake at night, and what are the things that you want the BWA to help you with? And there were two things. And one was they want to increase their sales, and the other is they want to become lean and reduce waste. So that started the launch of our at the time 2 programs. We have 4 programs now, but that started our sales program, and it started our lean program. So with the whole COVID situation, we reached out to Andrew, and we asked Andrew, what in thinking in terms of recovery and trying to keep that pipeline moving, so that as things start to open up, we don't want our companies to be behind and lose momentum. What can we be doing to help our companies keep that momentum up? And so Andrew put together a presentation for today that's actually and we got lots more feedback from a lot of members. And so we put together a 4-step, 4 days of training following this to build on what he's going to introduce today. So I'd like to pass it over to Andrew, and thank you for coming today, Andrew, and sharing with our members. I'll hand it to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Mike, for inviting me. And is it possible to give Stephanie control of Zoom?
Can you make me a host?
Yep, sure.
And I'll give it back to you, Ryan.
Sure, no problem.
Please, and thank you.
There we go.
Terrific. Thank you. So Stephanie and I work together in Milton. And for those of you that I haven't met, just really quick, since university, when I graduated, I've been in sales, and I still consider myself to be a salesman today. I really enjoy sales. And I was fortunate at the age of 30 to be a sales director of a $300 million business unit that was in trouble, and we helped it increase its profitability by 800% and kept it there. And in 2006, I thought, it's time for me to do what I would really like to do, which is be in control of my own destiny. And we opened Sandler Training Milton, where I've had the great pleasure to work with many, many motivated companies and business people that wanted to improve their sales, management, and leadership skills. And for those that aren't very familiar with Sandler, today there's a little over 250 locations in just over 25 countries. And today what I want to do is introduce 4 key topics. I do not like speaking at people. This will not be webinar type of training, but it's going to be very, very interactive. We're going to have breakout rooms. I would encourage you, please, to share your ideas. There's so much knowledge in this group today. I would like everybody to be able to contribute their ideas in the breakout groups as we work through some of the key topics. So here's my first question. As we're working from home, what are you doing digitally to keep selling? So I'm going to ask Stephanie to put people in groups. We'll have
Andrew, I don't have the breakout room button, so I'm just waiting to see. Ryan, can you make me actually the host? And that should pop it up, please.
Stephanie's my brilliant producer, and we've been working together
There we go.
through Zoom training for about 1.5 years now. So what I'd ask you to do is share, what are you doing digitally to keep sales going? Obviously, it's been very difficult to be face-to-face. I spoke to one vice president of sales yesterday who said, I don't think we're going to allow prospects or clients in our building for at least 1 year. So his company needs to be ramping up their digital activities. So I'll ask Stephanie to put people into different groups. It'll be a tight 4 minutes, and we'll bring you back and see what ideas everybody's doing. And I'd ask Stephanie just to put me into one group, just so I can learn as well what people are doing.
All right, just give me a second to put everybody into a group. And that includes Mike, Tara, and Ryan too.
Awesome.
And if you haven't participated in a Zoom breakout, it's going to pop up on your screen to accept a room. Please hit accept. And then when it's time to come back, there'll be a early warning saying you're about to come back to the main group.
6 weeks. So
Everyone is back, Andrew.
probably.
Terrific. So I'll just share a couple of ideas that I heard from the group that I was involved in, and one person is setting up.
Yeah.
So I heard one person is setting up a digital store so that customers can order that way, which was terrific. And another person had their sales team outreach to clients, and they had a great April, which was perfect. And I'd like to hear from others if I could. If there's a brave soul that can share one or two ideas that you heard as part of the group you were part of.
That's Mike here. So I'll speak from BWA, and I'll speak from one of the members that I spoke to. People are using the phone a lot, back into old school, and we started to use some more advertising, digital advertising, and folks are using web page. So I know that one of the companies in our group said that as soon as he opened up online orders, so they started that actually just before the pandemic, and their online ordering system, their business went up 50%.
Wonderful.
And so online ordering or e-commerce, I think, is a good solution. So that's from our group. Those are some good things.
Terrific. And could we get maybe at least, Ryan, do you want to share?
Sure. So in our group, we had some people mentioning that they're using an app that they used to share on their screens. So multiple people can be accessing one central computer. So they're able to share information across things that way. A lot more emails. Cell phones is obviously replacing the main line, and sharing of design photos to just be sharing ideas, and as well as using drop-offs more for the business.
Terrific.
I noticed in the chat room, Andrew, there's some points in the chat room too. You see those?
Can you share those, Stephanie?
Yes, where people are connecting with Zoom and having great success. That's from, I want to say, Lise Cote. I hope I said that right. And you use your CRM platform to follow up with customers.
Terrific. Right. So those are some great ideas. And I just want to share quickly another platform that sounds like some of you are using, but maybe not everybody, and that's LinkedIn. I'm a very big believer in LinkedIn. And for those of you that don't know, LinkedIn is actually a Sandler customer. And as a result of that relationship, we published a book called LinkedIn, The Sandler Way. And if anybody would like an electronic version of that book, I'd be happy to provide that to you free. My email is andrewwall@sandler.com, and be happy to share that for you. So utilizing LinkedIn, the first thing you want to do is really define your ideal client. And a question that we're asking our clients right now is, has your ideal client changed? Depending on who your client base is, and we have a wide variety of businesses in different industries participating today. If you were selling to a company that was considered non-essential and shut down, that impacted your sales. Should you be looking at new ideal clients? And I don't have a better economic crystal ball than you do, but if the recession gets worse, do we need to become more proactive in changing our ideal client? And should that ideal client be outside of our borders? So through LinkedIn, there's a free version. I would encourage you not to utilize that. It doesn't give you much of the LinkedIn capability. There's a premium version, and there's a Sales Navigator version. I'm a big fan of the Sales Navigator version. It provides much better research in terms of your ideal client, what industry, size of company, location, title, years in business. There's many, many different search vehicles that helps you identify who your ideal client is and then how to search for them. And once you've found them, you want to ask to connect with them, through LinkedIn. You might make a message or a comment, you know, we're in the same industry. I think it'd be helpful for us to be connected. Or if you are doing a good job of sharing content, you might say, you know, we're in the same industry. We share a lot of content that could help your business. Let's connect on LinkedIn. And I think today marketing is more about sharing knowledge than trying to convince somebody to contact you. So as you share that knowledge and you get engagement through LinkedIn, and you can see that through posts of what companies are interacting with you and which ones are not. The posts identify companies, not individuals, but the people that you're connected to within that company are going to be the people that have been seeing that. So after you've seen your prospects engage with you over numerous times, that'd be a time to contact them through LinkedIn InMail and ask them, would you like to have a 10 or 15 minute conversation? I see that you've been enjoying our content. Be happy to have a chat. So this is one way that you could be utilizing LinkedIn to identify new prospects. You know, one of the conversations I'm having with my clients that are custom cabinet makers that have both contractor business and retail business, their retail leads have slowed down dramatically. And depending on how the economy goes, they might need to have more contractor relationships. And LinkedIn's a great tool to identify people that are selling renovation services or design services to their client base, and they need to buy the kitchen cabinets from somebody. Why not my client? So this is a proactive activity that they can be doing, and they are in fact having their salespeople do this today. So here's my question for you. On a scale of 0 to 10, please grade your LinkedIn selling skills. 0 is, I don't know how to use it. 10 is, I'm on it, it's effective, it's creating conversations, and in fact, it's creating business. And so here's the next question for you that we'd like to have a breakout group on as well, is today, how are you doing with using video meetings? Are these meetings going well? Are you struggling? Are you maybe not even doing them at all? So we'll ask Stephanie to put us in a breakout group for just 4 minutes. Please share your experiences and what platform you're using. We heard Mike talk about Microsoft Teams, Zoom. Some people might be using their iPhones. So what platforms are you using and how are they going? Let's have an open, honest, good discussion on this one.
All right, here you go. Everyone is back.
Terrific. So I'll just sort of share 1 or 2 ideas that I heard in the group that I was a part of, and then we'll ask others to do the same, please. So one of the companies is still using the phone and on-site visits of their construction clients. So that was working well. And we had another training partner from the leadership side talk about using WebEx for their client training, and that's going very well for them. So I'm curious to hear from others from a sales perspective if very many people are using video meetings as opposed to telephone meetings or other such. Do I have a brave person that would be willing to share what they do? Maybe Alex?
Sure. So we're not using video with our customers. We're having either, Zoom or, because again, in my situation, I'm selling an intangible. So I'll forward documents or evidence or, using just basically email and phone, attaching attachments when necessary. Although in our breakout room it was mentioned that perhaps sharing my ugly mug might develop a better personal relationship. Not sure about that.
It's the hairdo.
Well, I did do it myself, I have my clippers and can't go to the barber.
Andrew, Frank would like to share what he's doing.
Terrific. Let's hear it, Frank.
Yeah, so I tried in the beginning of all this to use Zoom but I found many of my clients just couldn't schedule the right timing. Others didn't have the hardware. Others just altogether weren't comfortable with it, and some others just didn't have fast enough internet connectivity. So I switched quickly to putting together video presentations and uploading them to YouTube as unlisted and sending them a link. It would still be a very direct personal. I would name them in the video because it was for them. It wasn't marketing. It was presenting the machinery, and I'm actually finding very positive results. And I'm assuming, due to them being able to go backwards, forwards, re-listen over and over again, it's actually bringing very positive results. I might just keep doing that way.
Excellent. That's a very creative solution for the challenge that you had. Thank you very much for sharing that, Frank.
And Wolf, you had a great one. You just mentioned it in the chat.
Yeah, we've been lucky enough. We've had a couple of dealers that have actually closed the end consumer on orders via Zoom. So they link up with their clients on Zoom and do a virtual showroom tour, do the color sample choices, go over everything, go over their layouts and everything. So yeah, it definitely seems to be a new way. And they were actually excited about it because now they're thinking they can reach a broader base and accommodate clients on a more flexible schedule, because a lot of times it's hard to get into a showroom, right? Even before all this, people are busy, their schedules are so hectic. So yeah, we're definitely learning new ways, no doubt about it.
Well done. That's excellent. And is there somebody else there, Stephanie, that wants to share a good idea?
Lisa Cote said again, I hope I keep saying your name wrong. You're using Teams, Zoom, and the same what Frank said, you're doing videos on YouTube and sending out to a customer, and you're getting great responses.
I love that YouTube video idea, and it's one of the benefits of us sharing together today. Just going to move back now.
Yeah, I guess the only downside I found was that even though the YouTube video is unlisted, they can still share it with others. And so that has obviously pros and cons to it. It doesn't include pricing, which is obviously smart. But what I'm looking for now is a way that I can actually password protect those so that only the client that I sent the link to can actually view it.
Frank, you can actually make a video in YouTube private. You just have to upload only their email to it.
Yeah, I did that, and then the first response I got from the client was it wanted him to sign into YouTube, and he didn't have a YouTube account.
Okay.
There is one thing you could try, maybe with something like a Dropbox or a Google Drive. People might be able to access that Drive account to watch that video or download it in that way. But again, there could be, if you want to control it more and not let them be able to download the file and share it to other people that way, then you might want to embed it into a website so that people can only watch it and never download it. That would just be one extra level of website development.
Sounds good. Good points.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Ryan. And just to give you some ideas on how to conduct very effective video calls, I have a number of clients that are actually absolutely loving these Zoom video prospect calls. And one client said, I used to drive to their location, have a meeting, drive back, do some work, go out, do a measure, come back, and it's just so time consuming. Now they can do everything remotely and using Google Earth. He said, I'm much more efficient, and I've actually, I don't need to work as long hours. So there's a real benefit for his family. So some ideas for you is, first of all, and this has been studied, it's shocking, but a large percentage of salespeople actually go to sales meetings without having done any pre-call planning. So at Sandler Training, there's a couple ideas here that I think you should be thinking about for every prospect opportunity. The first is, what is the meeting objective? What are you trying to accomplish? And what meeting outcomes do you want to have? And that means you need to know what is your documented sales process. Because if it's the first meeting, that outcome could be different than the second or the third. And at Sandler, we're not encouraging people to talk about features, advantages, and benefits, because that's all about you. Instead, we like to talk about the prospect and asking questions around problems that you know how to fix and finding out whether or not that prospect actually is experiencing any of those problems. So writing out some good questions for you to think about in advance. And in particular with Zoom selling, it's very easy to have all those questions right beside you and the prospect doesn't even know that. And then finally, in your pre-call plan, what's your mindset for the appointment? You need to be very positive and confident about your company and your products and your services. And as somebody's mentioned already, everybody has a different level of comfort with using technology. So what are you doing to make this easier for people? You know, you might actually create a little video and send it to the person you're going to have a meeting with in advance, just in case they're not very comfortable with utilizing Zoom, to make it easier for them to interact with you. And you probably know that face-to-face selling is actually the most effective. So instead of having just a telephone call, a Zoom video call allows you to have good eye contact with your prospects. Now, you probably understand a little bit about DISC, and DISC is a communication decision-making model that has 4 different styles, and some people are extroverts. Extroverts are very outgoing and enjoy interacting with people. Introverts are a little quieter and sometimes are not comfortable socially. So if you are introverted and you don't have eye contact on your video calls, that's going to negatively impact the bond and rapport that you're not creating. And since we're not face-to-face, mirroring and matching tonality is super duper important. So we need to be aware of, is this person a fast talker, a slow talker? Are they loud? Are they quiet? And what are you doing to mirror and match them so they're more comfortable with you? And as I mentioned before, Sandler very much is a questions-based selling methodology. So we encourage our clients to be thinking of good questions and speaking actually only 30% of the time and focusing on the prospect and listening 70% of the time. So what problems do they have and how can you help solve those problems if you can? And then after the meeting, what did you do to debrief that meeting? Asking yourself, well, did I take an educated guess on whether they're an introvert or extrovert, or whether they're task-oriented or more relationship-oriented? Did I learn what problems they have and what is the cost of those problems to their business or to their family? And how personally motivated are they to fix those problems? What did you learn about the investments that they were prepared to make? And what did you learn about their decision-making process? So the pre-call planning to make sure you're prepared and mentally set for the appointment, and then call debrief at the end to just evaluate what information did I learn. These will help you tremendously. So people always ask me, you know, how do we get people to buy? Well, I'm curious, given this period of uncertainty, what is happening to your sales cycles? So I'm going to ask Stephanie to put us into groups again, and let's talk about, have your sales cycles actually gotten faster? Because maybe it's easier to get people together because they're doing less traveling, or are people uncertain, being cautious, and have they gotten longer? So let's have a good conversation. We'll just do this for about 4 minutes and share your business experiences.
All right, here you go. All right, everyone is back in.
Terrific. So I'm curious if somebody other than me would like to start off sharing what you heard in your breakout group there. What's been happening to your sales cycle, if anything? If we could get a brave volunteer to start things.
I can share, Andrew.
Okay.
So
Connie.
oftentimes there's more, there's other parties that are contributing to the sales cycle. So for example, in insurance, it could be subject to the underwriters. So if the underwriters are under a lot of pressure or swamped, then renewals or quotes are taking much longer. So that will increase the sales cycle on my end. So sometimes that's out of my control.
Thanks for sharing, Connie. Claire Martin, would you mind sharing what's happening in your business?
We're more or less very similar to what we were before. We end up doing a little more work ahead of time, and then we do share videos of designs to the clients once we've talked to them. and it really has helped. And before we were very reluctant to give them that much, and I hear that apparently when we share a video now they can share it with competitors. I didn't realize that when they're private, but I guess that's just one of the things. But so far our close rate has not changed really, and we're booking 3-4 months in advance, so I can't complain.
Congratulations. I'm glad you're doing so well. Thank you for sharing. Would anybody else care to share what they heard in their group?
Maybe hear from some of our manufacturers. Robert, can I single you out?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We've noticed a shift in trend. I mean, traditional clients are still there. They're still purchasing. The new wave of clients that have come in have been different. People that I never thought would buy, now that they have time to talk to you, to discuss business, you know, they're all eyes and ears now, right? So as long as you're in front of them, I mean, you're going to sell, right? And people are going to buy, right? That's what we've noticed. It's easier to take business away from, let's say, inefficient organizations nowadays as well, especially if you're up and running and you're all about service, right? Prices is a factor, but it's coming down to the almighty service and the overall experience is what we're noticing.
Thanks very much for sharing, Robert. And, you know, I've seen that through our client base and through Sandler Training. I have a number of friends that I talk to. So I'm hearing literally, you know, how hundreds and hundreds of companies are reacting. And for some companies that this is just sideswiped them, they're falling behind. But if you are progressive and if you can anticipate what people want, I think the big thing is distancing yourself from your competition. So congratulations to you and your company, Robert, for being able to do that. Is there another manufacturer who would mind sharing what's happening in their world?
Well, I can share if you want.
Thank you.
We're a manufacturer of wood flooring. So during this crisis, we realized that our customers had some weakness selling to contractors. So what we did is that we put together a program, especially for the contractors, and we're introducing that to our customers with a PowerPoint presentation. And then we give them a call and we go through the PowerPoint with them to explain the program. So it's quite positive up to now.
That's great. What a good idea to partner with your clients to help them sell to their end users. Very, very good idea. So let me share some ideas from a Sandler perspective. So what we talk about a lot at Sandler Training is that prospects like to buy, they just don't want to be sold. And so the Sandler approach is not to be an aggressive, pushy organization. I like to think that we're professionally assertive. And the first thing to think about is, what problems are you fixing for your clients? So instead of talking about your features, advantages, and benefits, think about what problems do people have? Problems that need to be fixed will allow the prospect to self-motivate themselves to fix that. So a good exercise at your next sales team, or if the sales team happens to be you, yourself, and I, spend some time thinking about not what your product is, your service is, but how can you help your clients solve a problem? And you might want to think about this into different buckets. I call it a 4 pillars exercise. At Sandler Training, we help with strategy, structure, staff, and skills. So as we help companies to double or triple, those are the ways that we do it. So we've got a number of questions that I can ask under strategy, structure, staff, and skills. I call that the 4 pillars exercise, and it's something you could do with your sales team at your next sales meeting. Psychologists have known this for a long time. People make emotional decisions first, and then they justify it intellectually. If you think about the last time you bought something that you may have thought was expensive, you may have hummed and hawed about that, but then once you made the decision, you probably came up with 10 reasons why it was a brilliant one. So we need to think about, you know, what problems do prospects have and how is that emotionally impacting them? And what we know is that pain is more motivating than a gain to take action. So if you in the past have talked about what a wonderful new kitchen would do for your clients, if you instead asked, What don't you like about your kitchen today? How is that impacting you? What happens if you don't change it? That will help the prospect to say, no, 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 this has got to be done. I've put up with this for too long, and now is the time. And now that we're in our home a lot more and we're eating out a lot less, I absolutely think this is a time for us to take some action. So I like to share this idea from a stair-step perspective. If you think of stairs having 3 steps, the very first step is the initial problem that somebody will talk to you about. At Sandler, we like to call this a pain indicator. Well, that pain indicator is not sufficiently motivating that prospect to make a change yet. So you need to pretend that you are a psychologist, a reporter, an investigator, maybe a clergy. And when you get that pain indicator, you need to ask more questions to find out, how is that impacting the business? Or if you're selling to people at home, how is that impacting the family? And in business to business sales, you must help the prospect calculate the cost of that problem. In business to business selling, if your solution is substantially less than the cost of the problems to the prospect, well, it's easier for that person to justify that purchase based on a return on investment. So that's the second step on these 3 steps, is what is the business impact financially and how is it impacting the family? And then finally, you need to find out, how is this personally impacting that individual that's in charge that's meeting with you? If they don't change it, is life okay? And in fact, that's a great question. When you've learned about a problem and they've shared why it's impacting their business or their family, you can simply use reverse psychology. I think women have been doing this to men for a long time. It really works. And simply ask the question, you know, times are uncertain. You probably don't need to change this. Pardon me? No. Sorry, there's an audio thing going on. And so the last question is, if we don't change it, is that okay? So these are some ideas that will help you to start to focus your prospect meetings on the prospect and asking them what's going on in their world and why would they want to change it and how would that change impact them as a business or as a family. So the last question I'd like to ask people to move into breakout groups on is, when you think about the prospects that you're meeting with, you know, are they tire kickers or are they real prospects? So the question that I'd like the breakout group to talk about is, when things stall or outright die in your sales pipeline, why do you think that's happening? So talk about what are the underlying reasons why prospects who previously seemed interested, all of a sudden, you know, they're not there. So I'll ask Stephanie to put us into breakout groups for about 4 minutes, and then we'll share the answers when we get back.
There you go.
So one thing I heard in our group is we don't create trust. They won't tell us what we need to know to help them. So if for whatever reason we just haven't made that person comfortable, then they're not going to share what's really going on. And if they don't share what's really going on, we probably can't create the proper solution. Brad, you're typically a shy guy there, Mr. Carnes. Would you mind sharing what's one thing you heard in your group?
I don't mind sharing. One of our biggest challenges is that, you know, people are focused on the dollar, right? And so we're in the component business. We sell cabinet doors. And so if our doors are whatever, right, like $8 a square foot, and the competitors' doors are $8 a square foot, I would say 99% of all of our improvements on the customer's behalf save them time. And a lot of customers are just very tolerant of wasting their own time and wasting their people's time. So when we show them, like, hey, you're literally going to save 15 hours a week, they just don't get it, or they just don't think it's important. They're like, well, I don't know. You know, they would rather see that dollar off of the price tag rather getting it, you know, from a soft cost of labor or burden. And that's, you know, that's probably our biggest challenge.
Okay. Thanks very much for sharing that, Brad. And Stephanie, is there anybody else that has their hand up willing to share an idea they heard from their group?
I do not see anybody else with their hand up or anything in the chat.
I can
Mike once.
Yeah, sure. Our group, one was a supplier of parts to our members, and it could be a variety of things because people's priorities change day by day too, depending on the fire they're fighting that day. It could, maybe it could have been installed because a competitor came in at a lower price, and or they talked to a different salesperson that day, or purchasing person on that particular day. One of the things also that Alex shared was that sometimes sales will die just because the prospect just finds that, well, it's just too much work to shift to that or change to that because something else has become more important. And so they just maintain status quo, no matter how much that may be costing them, or costing, as Brad said, with time or with money. People are just too busy to care, and they want to carry on with the status quo. So that was what was shared in our.
Thanks very much, Mike. Just paying attention to the time here. My view is that when things die, something in the qualifying process we probably missed. So I don't know if people are going to be offended here, but at Sandler we talk about there's no bad prospects, just bad salespeople. And it's really our job to find out why would they change. And the reality is, if they're satisfied with what they have, they're probably not changing. They're probably not changing. So if you go in talking about, I call it the big, bad, beautiful speech, well, your prospects heard that, and it's about you and it's not about them. So they're not going to tell you why they would change. And ask yourself, if somebody talks about money too early, that's probably a problem. But if you're hearing your price was too high after you gave the proposal quote presentation, did you do your job as a sales professional? Shouldn't you have known that before you created the proposal? And no two people, no two companies make decisions the same way. So at Sandler, we don't teach how to learn about a decision. Instead, we teach how to learn about their decision-making process. And it's different for everybody. So we need to be asking questions to learn how to qualify more effectively. And if you don't do this well, then maybe you're prone to this problem. PPS, premature presentation syndrome. So
there's a joke in there.
There is. I'm going to move on though. And Mike mentioned this earlier. Today we wanted to introduce some ideas that will help you in this new sales environment. And there's so much content that we can share. Today was just giving you a taste of what's possible and how we interact with people. We are not a webinar, I talk at you and you can walk away from the computer. We want you to be engaged and involved. So there's a 4-part series that's coming up. The dates have been picked. It's going to be 1 hour from 1:30 to 2:30. The investment is $200 per person, per participant for all 4 sessions. And we're going to be sharing real stuff. Sandler clients learn all the time from me. We're going to share it with the BWA members so that you can be as effective as possible. I'm a big believer that the world has shifted. The world has changed. My question is, are you changing your sales skills? And I ask you, when was the last time you actually worked on your sales skills? Obviously, I'm highly biased, but professional athletes, they train hours and hours and hours, and they have tons of coaches that help them to be at their peak performance. When was the last time you or your sales team worked on your sales training so that you could be at your peak performance? But thank you very much for allowing me to be part of this today, Mike. And I'll turn it back to you or Ryan. And thank you, Stephanie, for helping me make this presentation go so smoothly.
No problem. Ryan, I'm giving you passcodes.
Sorry, one last thing I almost forgot.
Oh.
If anybody likes free things, here's a couple free things that you might enjoy. If you go to wall.sandler.com/sell, which stands for Sandler's e-learning library, we have tons of video and audio content on sales, management, and leadership embedded in there. And I'd be very happy to have you accessing that. And we also have a Sandler app. So you can go to your app store and download the Sandler app. Thanks again, Mike, for letting me be here.
Okay. Well, our pleasure to have you, Andrew. So if you could, is the screen back to me?
Stephanie?
Stop sharing your screen, Andrew. You should be good.
Okay.
There we go.
Thank you.
Okay, for some reason, there we go. Okay, just to close off the meeting then, and just going back to our agenda, I know Andrew did provide some of the details about that event. So starting next week, there'll be 4 sessions. So we'll be sending out a link for those who want to register. We're also and that basically outlines the 4 sessions happening to follow up from today. We had to monetize it. We can't give it away, obviously, but we are going to have another open event May 27th. And this is in 2 weeks' time. And we've got a couple of topics lined up. However, we want to do a quick poll. For all of you who are on the line, please don't leave yet. We need to know what you'd like us to run. This week, we hope that you got some good value from Andrew's presentation. What would you like us to do for you in 2 weeks' time? So, Ryan, yeah, there we go. Here's the poll. So if all of you could choose priority what you like on this poll. Mental health in the workplace has been a big one that's come up lately. Another one is economic outlook updates. We've got access to an economist through EDC who's available to come and speak to us, give us a little bit of an outlook of what on the economy and perhaps some takeaways for us going forward. And then we have leadership, workforce, leadership in challenging times is another topic we had introduced by Barry Reed a couple weeks ago. We haven't done any lean yet.
Make sure to scroll down on that as well, because there's a couple more selections if it doesn't show in your window.
And then health and safety due diligence, we had a little introduction earlier on. That's still there. Employment law legal updates. Industry 4.0 adoption. We can't stop thinking about improving our processes. We have a buying group that we started. I introduced it last week. And how to start exporting for those of you that aren't. And then also we had a roundtable, an export roundtable back in February. We're going to be having another one. And then also how to get some money through your benefit plan and saving some money through the BWA benefit plan that might be a fit for some companies. So please select your topics there. And so when that poll will close in a minute. When will it close, Ryan? How quick does it close?
We can choose when it closes. We're at about 26 out of 37 responses so far. So we're doing good here.
Okay, so we'll leave it open for a minute, and I'm just going to minimize it. So at this point in time, I'd like to officially thank everybody for their time today. And so today, really, it's time for our overtime club. And watch.